What's up, y'all? Welcome into a victorious post-game edition. I guess is whiskey and wine. In the car, leaving Tiger Stadium, heading home. I know it's going to break your heart, but regrettably, I won't be able to read your comments because I'm going to keep my eyes on the road. Tigers win 13-10, but my goodness, that was one of the most hideous displays I have ever seen. Just some real talk here for a moment. So that was my first game in Tiger Stadium since 2017. So because T-Bob and I, well, first it was Jordy and I, and then T-Bob and I, we're doing whiskey and wine. We started the show, as soon as the game ended. So we'd fire up live as soon as the game ended, and we'd be at Don Juan. So I just didn't have, if I went to Tiger Stadium, I'd have to leave at halftime or whatever. So I haven't been to Tiger Stadium since 2017. And I picked a hell of a game for a return trip. Since I'm at a red light here, I can read the stat sheet. LSU put up 328 yards of offense. The Tigers, against a team that was 108th in the country in run defense. 108th in the country in run defense. LSU ran the ball. 37 times for 126 yards. Your Fighting Tigers were 3 of 16 on third down and 1 of 3 on fourth down. At this red light, I did kind of glance and I saw some of your comments there, just a smidge, and I know there's going to be the talk about Van Buren, and I know how this is going to go. There are people who have blamed Nussmeier all along, and so you wanted Van Buren, so you're gonna defend Van Buren now. And there's people who, well, that's pretty much it. The point that I made throughout the season is your problems were so much more deeply rooted offensively than just Garrett Nussmeier. And if all you were doing was just blaming Nussmeier for what ailed this offense, you were just wrong. Your offensive line stinks, your play calling stinks, your inability to run the football, receivers drop passes, it's everything. And Nussmeier was part of it. But the thing that I've told you since fall camp is Michael Van Buren is not an accurate passer. And you continue to see that. First drive of the game, had a pass deflected, probably should have been intercepted. He did have a ball intercepted tonight. He's not a good player. He has some mobility. And I think he has a lot of upside. I'm not saying he will never be a good player. I'm saying right now he's not a good player. You just played an awful football team and scored 13 points. And you were lucky when he ran the ball twice in goal-to-go situations. He fumbled twice. Once he was down, thankfully, at the 1 when he fumbled. So it wasn't a turnover, so it would have been a touchback into the end zone. And then he fumbled the snap on the next one. So, listen, I'm not I'm not telling you Michael Van Buren is your sole problem. What I'm telling you is some of you thought Van Buren was going to be the solution because you thought Nussmeier was the problem. And it is very clear now through 2 games, one against a really bad defense, that Van Buren's not the answer. I don't think Christ Almighty could come down from heaven and lead this offense to be competent. So it's all bad. Your play calling is bad. Your quarterback play is bad. Your line play is bad. It's all bad. All of it. And next week you have to go to Norman to take on an Oklahoma team that is playing for a playoff berth. Oklahoma, after beating Alabama last week and Missouri today, if Oklahoma beats LSU next week to finish 10-2, which they will, they'll be in the college football playoff. So you are you're walking into an impossible situation with a terrible offense against a really good defense next week and a motivated team that's playing for a playoff berth. So it's going to be bad. I know Wilson Alexander tweeted it during the game. Rabelais looked it up, but this will be the first time since the Division I split that LSU fails to score 25 points against a division, an FBS opponent. They don't score 25 next week. So, that was, I don't mean to just, you know what, before I go any further, a couple things I do want to talk about, because I know a lot of this conversation is going to be about the offense, but let me talk about a few other things first. Number one, I did think it was awesome that all 3 Weeks brothers got on the field at the same time. I know that's a relatively minor footnote in an awful season. But, Witt, who at some point they'll tell you what's really wrong with Witt. He didn't have a sprained ankle. Anyway, I think we can all understand by now he did not have a sprained ankle. And they can disclose it when they want. I've asked plenty of times that they don't want to disclose it. Okay, they don't have to disclose it. But that is something cool that's literally never happened. And when you've had a football program that's been playing games for 130 years, to have a first is a cool thing. That's great family. They love LSU. They're bought in. Really cool moment on the field post-game. I took some pictures of the family, put it on my Instagram if you want to check it out, my Twitter too. That was a cool moment. So Witt was out there just for a couple of series, and they got Zach in there, so all 3 Weeks brothers were playing. It's very cool of the coaching staff to recognize that opportunity that existed. And the fact that, look, that's a big reason why Zach reclassified, was so that he could play. And why West sacrificed. I mean, he could have played at the end of last year and didn't, to preserve his red shirt so he could come back for this. And so that was a cool moment. You look for those in an otherwise lost season. Defense was awesome. And that's a pretty good Western Kentucky offense. Tyson Helton's a good coach. That's a team that is 8-2 now. Well, they're 8-3 now, but they didn't. This was the first Power 4 opponent they played all year. So the 8-2 looks a little different than it would for a lot of G5s that play Power 4 teams and lose. But that's a good team, and they're playing Jacksonville State next week. Winner goes to the conference championship game, the CUSA championship game. So, for Blake Baker's defense, Western Kentucky went down the field, got a field goal on the first drive. Looked like they were going to score a touchdown. Your defenses came up, held to a field goal. And for them not to score, the offense didn't score again. Their other points was on Harlan Berry's fumble and the 71-yard scoop and scored there in the fourth quarter. But all the defense was awesome. And for the most part, LSU's defense has been awesome. And they've been asked to do everything. because the offense is so inept, and it's frustrating. It's not that dissimilar from what happened in 2023, where you had the number one offense and literally the number one total in scoring offense in the country, and your defense was an atrocity. You're just asking, that offense needed to score every time they touch the ball. This defense needs to get stops every time they play. We talked to West Weeks after the game, and when they had the lead at halftime, he said, look, they don't score in the second half, they can't win the game. So that was the objective, was to go pitch a shutout in the second half, and the defense did. I mean, the offense gave up the points on the scoop and score. But DJ Pickett interception in the ball game. Woodland. It was great. Pickett had the big sack at the start of the third quarter. You had some great individual moments. West Weeks had a sack. I think Pyburn got in on one. So those were some good moments. The injuries were a concern. I talked to Ori Williams after the game, and you've started to see Ori play, as they've started to rotate those tackles a little bit. So Ori started, and then they were rotating with Kern and Weston Davis. And Ori told me after the game that he got rolled up on, said he thinks he strained some ligaments, says he's going to have an MRI tomorrow, but I was talking to him on the field after the game. And he said he's going to have an MRI tomorrow, and but he thinks he'll be back for the bowl game, which would be good. And you might get Tyree Adams back for the bowl game too. So look, I get it. I mean, no one's going to be super pumped about playing in the Texas Bowl or the Music City Bowl or whatever bowl they're in. But you did have some injuries tonight. Frank Wilson said post-game that Caden Durham suffered a concussion. Braylon Moore had a mid-foot sprain, and so he didn't play the rest of the game. DJ Chester went in at center. So, I mean, you were down Tyree Adams, DJ Chester, Tyree Adams, Braylon Moore, Ori Williams. Just not great. So, I mean, y'all, I'm playing the game through in my head offensively, and it's just Tradez had a touchdown. That was a moment where you needed it, but my God, you were 3 of 16 on third down. You were 1 of 3 on fourth down. There was a point in the game where the teams they went for it on 3 consecutive fourth downs, and nobody converted. It was just terrible, man. Some said I love the moon. I love the moonroof. It's your look, man. It's a Volkswagen Atlas, man. I'm driving Erica's Atlas. I have a crossboard that's an Atlas. The 3-row 7-seater family SUV. It's a beautiful car. Love it. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Go to South Point Volkswagen. Wait, while I can mention this for a minute, shout out to Parish Construction and Roofing, parishbuilt.com, parishbuilt.com. Love to help you with a roof repair, replacement, free, no obligation roof inspections. And Bocock Brothers Premium Cigars. Chatting with the Bocock guys this week. Thanks to a great Christmas gift. They got their LSU branded cigars. So you can buy your boxes at the website, bocockbrothers.com. Use the code MAT15, 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 get 15% off your order. MAT15 for 15% off your order. Great for Christmas gifts, for clients, families, whatever, or just for you. Check them out, bocockbrothers.com. MAT15 for 15% off your order. Let's see, what else? I know everybody asked, look, man, at the stadium tonight, I got asked 800 times about Kiffin. Is it done? Is it done? Is it done? I'll tell y'all. Let me just ruminate, give you a few thoughts on that right now. I mean, that was as bad an offensive game as you could possibly imagine. In a season that's been as bad an offensive season as we can imagine. I think after something like that, the possibility of getting Lane Kiffin, because just nothing on offense looks easy. I was even miles where teams were throwing the football their idea was still power run, and you knew they could run the football. Now, if they had to throw it to get back into a game or something like that, generally it wasn't going to go well. But they played defense and they ran the football. They had an identity. This team is just bad. It's just a bad football team. So the idea of bringing in Lane Kiffin and having an offense that can move the ball and that can score is pretty enticing. And I think you will have fans and boosters and everybody, because it'll inject some life into this program, which, I think this is as disappointing a season considered relative to the expectations as I can remember since I was talking on the field after the game with who was I talking to? I think it was Harrison Valentine, who works for LSU. I think I was talking to Harrison about this. I think this is as disappointing a season considering the expectations since 1998. Remember, that was, if you don't remember, that was DiNardo's fourth year. That Herb Tyler was a senior, 4-year starter at quarterback. Kevin Falk was a senior. Booger was a senior. Tom McClure was a senior. It was a team that was preseason, I think, number 8 in the country. Had so much expectations, and they just, Lou Tepper came in as the DC, and they were awful defensively, and they just fell apart, and they went 4-7. This feels like that, where you had so much expectation, and and it just fell apart. So, very disappointing. I think hiring Lane Kiffin would inject a ton of life and energy, and the idea that with portal and NIL, you can turn things around quickly. That's exciting. I'll tell you a couple things to watch next weekend. So, of course, Ole Miss is going to play the Egg Bowl at 11 a.m. on Friday. But I'm telling you, keep an eye on the Texas A&M game and on the Iron Bowl. Because the way that I'd say it with Kiffin right now is, yes, I believe as of this moment that next Saturday, after the Egg Bowl, Lane Kiffin will be announced as LSU's coach, and I think that Monday, so a week from Monday, that Lane Kiffin will be introduced at a press conference at Baton Rouge. As of today, as of this very moment right now at 11:36 p.m. on Saturday, November the 22nd. However, what I will always tell you is it's never done until it's done. Like when we're watching Texas A&M and LSU in 2016 on Thanksgiving night, and it's on the crawl that LSU's hiring Tom Herman, and 36 hours later Ed Orgeron's at a podium. The biggest concern that you have over the next 6 days is Lane Kiffin getting cold feet, Lane Kiffin, Florida getting back in the mix, which they're not in the mix right now. I think the Florida fans or the Florida media, I think they are about a week behind the news cycle, quite honestly. I think there are some things that are just being revealed to them that they think are new that are actually probably 10 to 14 days old that are no longer relevant. And when this is all over, I'll explain that. But the two other things I mentioned, watch Texas and watch Alabama, because there's been a lot of chatter out of Austin this week. There's a lot of people there displeased. This was preseason number 1 team in the country, Arch, all the stuff. And if they get walloped next week by A&M, like if A&M goes in there and smacks them around, and A&M's in the playoff, and Texas is 8-4, they may, as stupid as this is going to sound to you and me, there's a growing sentiment that they could get impulsive and run out Sark to hire Kiffin. I would not put that at a very strong probability. I might put that at 15%. I'm just saying there's enough relevant people around Texas football that have mentioned that it's not nothing. And then the other is Alabama. Now, I don't have a great sense of if Penn State would actually be interested in Kalen DeBoer, but I've had enough people that I trust mention that at least as Penn State could be kind of desperate, and DeBoer's never really felt like a match in Tuscaloosa. And if they go lose the Iron Bowl and finish 9-3, and they gag this away, and they lose to Florida State, and they lose to Oklahoma, and they lose to the Iron Bowl to an interim coach in DJ Durkin, and go 9-3 and miss the playoff again, that maybe DeBoer could end up at Penn State. Now, again, I want to tell you, and if that happened, then Bama would be in the mix for Kiffin. Again, I want to be clear because I know how some of y'all at midnight on a Saturday are going to react. I would put that probability at single digits, 9%. Slim to none. Just saying it's not none. What are you doing? I'm hosting a show as I drive, and I'm more competent than you. Anyway. So, Tigers beat Western Kentucky 13-10. We did. If you're just joining us, thank you for being there. Please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Where we were starting, 20 minutes ago. Bro, now this person in front of me is brake checking. I don't think they know what they're doing. They don't know where they're going, or that's a problem. Where we started was talking about the quarterbacks. I think, listen, I don't want to speak badly of Michael Van Buren in the sense that I'm not telling you that the offensive issues are our Van Buren, because I didn't do that with Nussmeier. He was certainly not great. He was part of the problem. But Van Buren's part of the problem tonight. If you're going to criticize Nussmeier, like a lot of you did, blaming him for the lack of offensive efficiency and lack of points, well, now Van Buren started 2 games and you still haven't scored 25 against an awful Arkansas team that's dead last in the SEC in defense that gave up 52 today to Texas, and Western Kentucky, a G5 school or G6. Let's call it what it is, all right? The benefit of Van Buren starting these 3 games, provided he starts next week, is unless you make it shut out, man. Whew. Is you get an evaluation of Van Buren, a full 3-game evaluation as the starter of Van Buren for the next coach to look at. But look, the last 2 games were his opportunity against against Arkansas, which is the worst defense in the league, and Christmas lights, no more, and then Western Kentucky, who was 108th in the country in rush defense. These 2 games were your opportunity, if you're Van Buren, to show, okay, a different style of quarterback, a change of pace is what they needed, and clearly it's not what they needed. Next week in Norman against Oklahoma is going to be heinous. They may not score. So, if it is Lane Kiffin, I think, a lot of people have asked, what's the first thing he has to do with, well, before I'm concerned about hiring a staff or any of that stuff, what's paramount is you got to get a quarterback, because your starting quarterback next year, I don't think is on this team. I don't know if Colin Hurley will be back. For his sake, just for a young person that I hope gets things straight in his life, in his personal life, and manages those things. I hope he is. I don't know if he will be. But I don't think your starter next year is on the team. Let's see. We did it, Moscona. Trinidad Chambliss, I don't think has any more eligibility. Damn, we're getting shut out. LSU might get shut out next week. They might. They might get shut out at Oklahoma. Hammy Clam said, let's be real, the offensive line is bad. That's been my point all year, is that the first domino offensively is your offensive line is atrocious. With the benefit of hindsight, I wish they would have signed less skill guys and more linemen. Nico, all right, you were right about Michael Van Buren. We just need disappointment in a different form. Look, man, it's interesting to see the Michael Van Buren comments now. Oh my God, Michael Van Buren was excellent. Jesus Christ. I want to see I wish y'all could see it. I want somebody who is actually technically savvy, which I'm not. One of the reasons I graduated, the primary reason actually that I graduated in print journalism from LSU and not broadcast journalism, is because I hated editing video. I want someone who is good at that, can edit video, to do a cut up of all of Michael Van Buren's throws from this ball game, and you will see very clearly what I'm talking about. He is a very inaccurate passer. He can improve, but he is a very inaccurate passer. I've told you that since fall camp. And you can choose not to believe it. You can ignore your eyes because you marry yourself to whatever ideology you have, or whatever point of view. But anyway. Van Buren had 42 attempts and 202 yards. It's bad. Really bad. All right. Terrence said, was Colin Hurley dressed? Colin Hurley's not with the team right now. He's taking a leave of absence for personal matters. He's not even on the team. So your backup was Juwan Johnson and Emil Picarella. All right. I got to go record my Locked On LSU episode. I do have, by the way, hey, Trey Mitchell, what's up, man? Got to see Trey tonight at Night once. You want game flow? You want game flow? Hang on. Don't think I didn't sit there in the press box with my legal pad here, my game flow. Hang on. I'll get you some game flow. You want some Mickey Ficky game flow? Here you go. Here's your game flow. Let's do it. I'm ready. I'm sitting in the garage. Western Kentucky opens the game, 9 plays, 57 yards, 3:17 off the clock. They kick a field goal to go up 3-0. Tigers get the ball, 3-and-out punt. Western Kentucky, thank God Jack Pyburn, big sack there. He had a PI on. That was the play where he nearly had the interception. Tigers get the ball, punt. Western Kentucky, punt. LSU gets the ball, Van Buren throws an interception. Going into the second quarter, They go for it on a 4th down. By the way, they dropped the touchdown on that. But oh my God, y'all. Oh my God. The play where they threw back to the quarterback on the goal line, the 2nd and goal. They were up 3-0. Their first possession after the interception, they get 1st and goal at the 6. They throw an incomplete pass. 2nd down is when the running back threw the ball to the quarterback and he dropped the friggin' touchdown. Imagine if he had caught that ball, because they ended up going for it on 4th down. It was incomplete. So you had 3 straight possessions where they were 4th down, where they went for it on 4th. LSU went for it on 4th. They went for it on 4th. Nobody converted. But that play at the goal line where they dropped the touchdown. Oh my God. 7-3 at halftime. Oh no, we kicked the field goal before half. No, it was 7-3 at half. Bad in the first half. PI on Woodland. Van Buren threw an interception. Tylen Singleton had a defensive holding. You had a false start on your center, DJ Chester. 4th and 4 play that was incomplete. Get a defensive offsides on Bernard Gooden. Now, Mansour Delane didn't start. So, by the way, I was told Mansour Delane had it's like an abdominal issue, and I think part of that is he's got a future. And he needs to be ready for the combine, and I hate to say that, but I think that's what that was. I don't think that's what that was. That's what that was. Love to see the 3 Weeks brothers getting on the field. Braylon Moore got hurt. Ori Williams got hurt. In the second half, Harold Perkins got hurt. It was a hit pointer, but he went back in. Witt came out with a boot. There was a few other things. At the end of the 3rd quarter, the students were chanting, "We want Kiffin." And they have something called the Boom Boom T-shirt cannon. And they play Boom Boom Pow, because this was my first game since 2017. I didn't know this, but they have the Boom Boom T-shirt cannon. And they play Boom Boom Pow, and they shoot T-shirts into the crowd. And Kevin Gaussman shot the T-shirts into the crowd. Let's see. Here was your second half. Punt, 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 interception, field goal, interception, punt, punt, field goal, punt, punt, punt. And then I went down to the field, and then they had a scoop and score touchdown. There's your game flow. Erica's going to be tapping away. Erica's probably in the bathtub. Okay. Anything else? What you got? Anything else? So hold on. Bill said 2017, dude, that's wrong. You need to go more. Bill, the reason I haven't been to the stadium since 2017 is because of whiskey and wine. We start the show as soon as the game ends. So I had to be at Don Juan. It didn't make sense at all for me to go to the stadium to then have to leave at halftime. Why fight and then miss the 3rd quarter driving to Don Juan? So no, I haven't been to Tiger Stadium since 2017. Not because I don't want to go, because I did whiskey and wine for all of you. I spent all those Saturday nights away from my family, not going to Tiger Stadium, hanging out in a cigar bar, which I love, of drunk people with an ogre next to me, making very crude jokes. Anyway. And I can't do it at the stadium, Bill, because they won't allow us to stream live video at the stadium. And also, you're on the field post-game, and then you go to the post-game press conference, so no. Thank you, Stephen. He said, thank you for your service since 2017. You're welcome. I'm here for all of you. I am here for all of you. By the way, it's midnight. I went to the game tonight because I felt like with everything going on, I had to be there because I knew President Roos was going to be there, and Verge was going to be there, and committee members were going to be there, and board of supervisors members were going to be there, and coaches, and had to go talk to people, which is why I went to this game tonight, even though it was the worst freaking game ever. And now it's midnight. I'm getting home, and guess what I'm going to do? Go and record Locked On. So I better watch it. By the way, I recorded a Locked On earlier today with reaction to the contract, the terms that Ross Dellinger leaked, and some of the stuff that I hope you'll appreciate some of the perspective on the NIL stuff as well. The structure of the contract, structure of the buyout, and the NIL. Check that out, Locked On LSU. Your team every day. Anyway. I stayed up waiting for game flow. You got it, man. You got your game flow. Caleb, I feel like you could be national guy. I'd hate to lose you. I'm not going anywhere. But thank you. That's very kind. Putting in the hard work, breaking the news stories first. Dellinger got me on the contract. I was close. Matt, do you think Lane makes it to Friday? You misspelled ogre, by the way, Bill. And T-Bob is an ogre. Do I think Lane Kiffin makes it to Friday? I don't think it's a certainty that he makes it to Friday. But I also think that Keith Carter backed himself in a corner in that statement by putting a date on it, by saying that they'll make the announcement Saturday. Okay. Merrick said, what's the second option if Lane stays? I'll tell you they're preparing for Eli Drinkwitz to be the second option. But I think the reaction to that has been so overtly negative. I don't think they can pull the trigger on that. Maybe I'm just trying to convince myself that they wouldn't. But I do think Drinkwitz has been their number two. And for the love of God, I hope that doesn't happen for so many reasons. I think the group of candidates after Kiffin are Drinkwitz, Dillingham, Summerall, and Blake Baker. I'd bring back BK before Drinkwitz. So, yeah, this guy said, how can you make it Friday? Can you imagine how the players feel? Now, something I did mention on my Locked On episode, and I said it there, so I'll say it here. I don't mind saying it. I've had some conversations with people like deeply connected with the Ole Miss program. In the last 3 days in particular, there are players on that team that do not want Lane Kiffin coaching them this week. They feel like he's abandoned them in the middle of their run, and it has gotten toxic. It's gotten toxic. So I don't know. I don't know what is. I don't know what's going to happen. My sense is because Carter already put out the statement and said Kiffin will coach the game, and then they'll make the announcement on Saturday about his future, that he coaches the game, and then Saturday they announce he's leaving, and LSU will announce he'll be their coach, and then Monday after the Egg Bowl, he'll be at a press conference at LSU. But that's such a long time from now to not have a sign, and there is no signed agreement as of today. I'm telling you, like there is no binding agreement with LSU today. There is no sign, but so until you have that ink dry on the paper, brother, it ain't over. If I make you that Michael Van Buren cut up, I want to text when Lane is official. You got it. I'll put it on my text line. Trust me, as soon as I know, the story will be at louisianasports.net, and the first place it will get shared is on my text line. So, I mean, we broke the Brian Kelly story. We had it first. Shit, I had it. What time was that? I had that Sunday morning. That was such a weird day, man. It was ready to break that story, and then we got word about the buyout stuff, and then the governor called the meeting at the governor's mansion, and everything paused because Trace was trying to get LSU to reconsider. Anyway, anyway, what we got? All right, I gotta go record Locked On. Barry Joslin, Matt, text line is legit. I teach high school and stop class whenever you drop a story. I love it. So good. All right. What did it say? Open your garage. I'm outside. The garage door is open. I never closed it. So you're lying. All right. Does Witt come back? I don't know. Gulf South. I think I think so. I think Witt comes back. I think he'll have great rev share and NIL value, and I think his draft stock, he probably slipped, into a late day 2, early day 3 pick. Sonny asked about Perk's out of eligibility, man. He can't come back. Thanks, Bill. Locked On's the best podcast in the world. Thank you. Matt, make sure you set the alarm when you go inside. Got it. Always do. That is very nice, Maxwell. Matt, you're the best. You're the reason following LSU is worth following. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Moscona has to play some jazz flute. I do love a good Anchorman reference. Who wants to see Mr. Ron Burgundy play some jazz flute? Tino's the best club owner in the city. All right, I got to go. Thanks for watching. How hangry are you? I was literally just thinking, I think I might DoorDash some Taco Bell. That's like a fat guy move, but I don't care. Mike gives you a percentage chance Kiffin to LSU. Shout out to the everydayers. Percentage chance Kiffin to LSU. $91. Perkins is not a redshirt junior because he played in 4 games last year. He could petition, I guess, for a medical hardship, but he's not a redshirt junior. He is a senior. Lord Mayonnaise was looking for tonight. I'm just telling you, y'all, Kiffin is not a smokescreen. It's not a look. I mean, I can tell you a story without telling you a story, but Ross Dellinger put out the terms of the contract. They went behind the board went into executive session yesterday with Kelly buyout on the agenda, on the public agenda. But because they were in executive session, they could talk about whatever behind closed doors. You don't think that they okayed the terms for Kiffin's deal that got leaked to Dellinger last night? And by the way, what's your Taco Bell order? So I get 3 soft tacos and 3 Doritos Locos tacos. Let's go. And I mean, man, I told y'all, like, if they came out of the meeting with Keith Carter on Friday, one of two things was going to happen. Either Kiffin affirmed he's staying with Ole Miss and he signed an extension, or he does not affirm and they keep it quiet through the Egg Bowl, and then he leaves after the Egg Bowl, which is exactly what you saw happen yesterday. Look at these. Dude, you know what I used to love at Taco Bell that I don't think they make anymore was the double-decker taco. That was Shaq used to endorse that when he was still playing in the NBA. I mean, this was like 92, 93, like early 90s. The double-decker taco, it was like a hard taco, and then it had like bean dip on the outside of the shell. It was wrapped. The hard taco was wrapped in a soft taco. Double-decker. They don't have them on the menu no more. Can we get? No, see, here's the thing. I don't get Dr. Pepper. I don't like Pepsi, but what I would get a Mountain Dew. That was my order. Not Dr. Pepper, Mountain Dew. Okay. Florida fans are coping hard. They love that they're moving in silence. My favorite part about all the drama, you have to get shafted. Okay. Real quick, I'll give you some perspective on Florida. And then I'm really going. And I'm going to go order Taco Bell. Okay. I absolutely believe that 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, that Lane Kiffin thought he would be the Florida coach. Absolutely. And I believe they were moving in that direction and that he was going to be the Florida coach. And I think two things happened. One, Brian Kelly got fired and LSU got really interested in Lane Kiffin. And subsequently, people Lane Kiffin trusts in the profession, Nick Saban, Jimmy Sexton, Kirby Smart, have all told him LSU is a better job than Florida. And also, they kept winning. I think if you inject Lane Kiffin with true serum, he would tell you he did not think this team would be 10-1 right now. And he could have been 8-3, and he could say, man, I gave it my all. I elevated this program. We just can't get over the hump. And people would have understood it. And so it's made the timing of this really complicated. There are non-binding things that people can sign that I think that probably happened between Lane Kiffin and Florida weeks ago that the Florida media is just finding out about now, and they think it's now. And so they think that he's coming now, and they're wrong. The whole Lane Kiffin's representatives talking to Florida Friday or Thursday, yeah. Lane Kiffin's agent's Jimmy Sexton, who also represents 100 other coaches. So when you're talking to Jimmy Sexton, yes, you are talking to Lane Kiffin's representative. But you're also talking to Brent Key's representative and Clark Lee's representative. And how many other coaches? Anyway, the Florida people are, listen, I think I said this earlier on Morning Scone. If Florida lands Lane Kiffin, it'll be the greatest comeback since fucking Lazarus. Okay. And a man did rise from the dead 2,000 years ago. So maybe Florida could land Lane Kiffin. But I'm just telling you, that's a long shot. And this is coming from the same person who on Sunday, when Florida people were all Kiffin to Florida, done deal, and I said, no, it ain't. And LSU is very much in play. They're behind. They're behind the news cycle. Greatest comeback since A&M last week. Even better. And with that, I'm leaving. Okay, please smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Do me a favor. If you need a roof, call Parrish Construction Roofing. And tell people you know to call Parrish Construction Roofing. And read LouisianaSports.net. And if you go to Locked on LSU. And if you buy cigars, go to BocockBrothers.com and use the code MAT15, MAT15, MAT15 for 15% off your order. Have a great night. See you.